Our lives are laid out on a road of bumps, turns, struggles, and more. How do we respond? How do we endure adversity for learning and growth? I'm Aubrey Johnson, and we'll explore these questions and more on the road to rediscovery. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Road to Rediscovery. I'm your host, Aubrey Johnson. The Road to Rediscovery is about reflecting on life lessons to learn and grow from them, and of course, pay it forward and uplift others who are struggling through dark times. I am so happy to share that ever since the launch in 2018, this show continues to gain momentum more and more, getting in front of more people, wanting to hear inspiring stories of overcoming adversity and insights on personal growth. I want to personally thank you all for your continued feedback, good wishes, and kind words. And if any of the past episodes or this episode resonates with you, I humbly ask if you could kindly visit Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star rating. This will keep the momentum moving to those who need to hear these extraordinary stories from these extraordinary guests. And as always, we are so grateful for your listenership. My special guest has endured and overcome childhood sexual assault, 2 house fires, a miscarriage, and the loss of her mother. In the midst of such trauma, as we'll learn in our conversation here, she's gravitated to yoga and is now a senior yoga teacher and therapist, helping people discover the benefits of yoga for trauma recovery and healing, but doing it the right way, preventing unwanted triggers. She's also the host of the Yoga for Trauma, the Inner Fire of Yoga podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Liz Albanis to the show. Liz, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you here.
Thanks, Aubrey. Thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, likewise. We are thrilled to have you here. We reciprocate. Really looking forward to some great insight. So, Liz, if you can just kind of set the stage with a little context for the listeners and just give us a glimpse into the early part of your journey and how were you led to practicing yoga?
Yeah, sure. I was 29. I'm now nearly 45, so it's been a while.
Mhm.
When I discovered yoga, I was working for the federal government here in Canberra. I live in the bush capital, the capital city of Australia, little city near Sydney. And I was very unhappy. I'd been bullied at work because of suffering depression, and I had undiagnosed ADHD.
Oh my.
And I'd been smoking for years. I started at 14 or 15, roughly, and that was my coping mechanism, that and drinking alcohol.
Mhm, mhm.
And a friend of mine said to me, "Oh, come along and try this hot yoga out." It was Bikram yoga. I don't practice that anymore. You'll burn calories, you'll get more flexible, typical female wanting to burn calories, get thinner. And I went along, and right before the class started, I thought to ask her, "Why are we sitting here in the middle of the room?"
Yeah.
I've worked out this is the hottest part of the room.
Mhm.
So we need to sit here. And I'm like, "Oh, great. Thanks for that." I don't know what it's in Fahrenheit. It's over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. It's 40 degrees Celsius.
Oh my. Yeah.
And I couldn't move.
Mhm.
And the teacher comes in. They're very strict. There's no choice. Very dogmatic. You can't drink in certain times. You can't drink until a certain time. Things like that.
Yeah.
If they're on the highway. And it was one of the most challenging things I've ever done. I could not wait for that class to be over. I didn't want it to be over. It's a set sequence. So
Yeah.
once you have a sequence, you know when you're nearly there. But
Yeah.
I didn't know. But I came out of that yoga class feeling incredible.
Mm.
I couldn't sleep, but I felt amazing. Dehydrated, but amazing.
Yeah.
And I got hooked. I started practicing regularly. It was right in my house. It was handy.
Mhm.
And I started to feel better. And I went to my best friend's 30th birthday party down in Melbourne, and I was feeling better, and I said to myself, "It's a party. You're going to be drinking. This is the last time you're going to have a cigarette, and you're going to quit.
Yeah.
You've got yoga now to help you."
Mhm.
And for the first time, I managed to quit smoking. I'd tried on and off for 15 years. And I tried hypnosis, everything, nicotine patches. I'd forget the patch was on and I'd light another one up. I'd suffered a fire and burnt myself
Oh,
in
my.
my early 20s because of smoking and drinking.
Mhm.
And despite the fact I had suffered second, third degree burns, my addiction to nicotine was so strong.
Oh, my. Really?
Didn't stop me from smoking again. Even though I couldn't smoke while I was in hospital for 17 days or whatever, 21 days or whatever it was when I was recovering,
Mhm.
still didn't stop me smoking. And I haven't touched a cigarette since. And it started to make me think about there's more to this yoga than I thought.
Yeah.
And I ended up having a career change. The following year, I got a redundancy package after after asking for one, and so I got paid out money, and
Yes.
it was a lucrative deal, and I used that to have a career change and do more training in yoga and fitness, things like that.
Oh, extraordinary. Very fascinating. And what you shared with your personal experience and battle with nicotine, and just the benefits that you got off that first attempt of yoga, hot yoga. Like you said, although dehydrated, you felt great. You felt wonderful. And so, is it fair to
Mm.
say, Liz, that that yoga can help build some resilience and determination in taking on your struggles and in challenging your struggles and trying to overcome things like addiction?
I would hope so. Yes, that's the
Yeah.
whole goal of it. It's to create that union with your mind and find your true self, your true nature, to reduce suffering and achieving lasting happiness. It's
Mhm.
portrayed and in the West so simplistically as this exercise class, but it's so much more, and it doesn't have to involve these postures that we see on social media and all of that. But
Right.
it's we're only seeing a tiny little piece of it on social media, and we're thinking that the most advanced yogi on Instagram is the one standing on their head or whatever, you
Right.
know. That's not technically the most advanced yogi. My yoga practice doesn't involve headstands anymore. It might occasionally on a feet up trainer, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have to involve any of that. It's
I
the
see.
mind training. It's what you take off the mat. That's the real power with yoga.
I
Mm.
understand. That's the key right there. And in receiving that, you don't have to be atop of a hill with snow-capped mountains and stones piled up either side of you. I mean, it's or headstanding, right? Like you said, it's centering your mind, it's grounding yourself, and it can be done in so many ways other than what mainstream media and social media is shows us or reveals to us. It's only a portion of that, it sounds like. So, Liz, is it fair to say that um, uh, while you have resilience innate, I'm sure, you found yoga as a source of building on that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you're dealing, I was diagnosed with PTSD,
Mhm.
post-traumatic stress disorder,
Mhm.
at age of 11 because of adverse childhood experiences and one major event that changed me
Yeah,
forever.
yeah,
And they now know after many years of research. This was in the 1990s. They didn't know as much. It was for children, it was play therapy and medication. So it was what we call top down,
yeah,
getting into the brain first, then into the body. But we now know that to recover from trauma,
Yeah.
we need to have a bottom-up approach as well. So we need to get into the body, then into the mind. And yoga can be both a top-down and a bottom-up approach. And so when I did my first teacher training, I was still having violent nightmares. And I'd had that hypnosis as well, but I was still having violent nightmares, and I didn't realize this until my roommate on the yoga teacher training told everyone, and then moved to a different hotel, and I was mortified. So yeah, the Bikram started me and helped with quitting smoking, but it didn't. There was still a lot more work to do, and there's still work to do. But yeah, it's important with the trauma with developing resilience when it comes to trauma. It's really important to have that bottom-up approach too.
Yeah, so it goes both ways, and that is a revealing insight, as well. And it leads me to ask this next question, which um, I'm not as close to yoga as you or most people are. Okay, I do meditate and I practice controlled breathing, and do breath work, and I do a little bit of qigong,
Oh yeah.
you know, but like I said, I'm not very close to yoga. So, admittedly, on the outside looking in, I have a conventional thought of yoga, and maybe this is um, what a lot of society who's not familiar with yoga have this conventional way of thinking when it comes to yoga. I thought, like, if it's yoga, it's good for the mind, body, and soul. All yoga, any and all yoga. Okay, but it sounds to me, from what I've read and what I understand, with you and your approach to yoga, especially for those that you're working with in using it for trauma recovery, there's certain methods that you work with your clients in understanding their body, reading their body, and knowing certain yoga practices to do that will serve them and benefit them in their recovery, and not as to cause a re-trigger. Is this a mind shift in the way of thinking about the approach to yoga, or is this something that has been been around, sometime for some time with yoga and teaching it?
I think the old school yoga that we saw,
Hmm.
even 30 years ago was very dogmatic. I mean,
Hmm.
we've had some wonderful teachers, but even the Yogi BKS Iyengar, who invented the yoga blocks and the bolsters, he hit students with a stick. And I know this because I've trained with people who train with him, but that's how they were taught. That's how it was done. And and even when I was taught in Bikram yoga, Bikram Chowdhury's got his own reputation.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a warrant out for his arrest in the United States.
Oh,
But so this is not rumor. This is a fact.
fact, right.
In Bikram, it's not trauma informed. There is no choice. You cannot leave the room. You can't vary the pose unless you're pregnant and they give you some variation. They often push you to stay in the pose and to go push further than
Mm.
you should. And they did it to me with a forward bend and pull, get your head to the floor. Oh, my head to the floor, and I injured myself.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
and
Yeah.
although yank your head back, and I mean, a lot of them will stand on people,
Yeah.
not so much the newer instructors, but the old school ones
Yeah. Yeah.
stand on people. So yeah, a lot of yoga isn't trauma informed, and there's not enough opt-outs, choice,
Hmm.
sense,
Hmm.
empowerment, normality, in that if someone cries in a yoga class, they might feel ostracized or feel like there's something wrong with them.
Hmm.
But crying is pretty darn common in yoga. I've cried in a yoga class because we're releasing issues in our tissues. So when I started, when I started practicing yoga, it was very dogmatic.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. And then I did my first teacher training, and the man I studied with, John Ogilvy, he turned his life full circle from heroin addiction through yoga. He found yoga in rehab.
Amazing.
Amazing. And he really emphasized something called ahimsa, non-violence, the first ethical rule in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras of non-violence to yourself and others. And that's one of the areas vegetarianism comes in.
Okay.
But I started to realize, things could be done better. And I learned a lot on that first teacher training.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Very extraordinary. So over time, it sounds as if there's a newer generation of instruction, a generation of more compassion, a generation of just consideration of of who you're working with. And to me, it sounds like yoga is so many different things, but it's all centered on mind, body, and soul, and you can customize it in a way that serves you, and that's particularly important for someone who has struggled or is struggling with trauma, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
It came about, I think, from my understanding, was David Emerson and Bessel van der Kolk,
Mhm.
big Body Keeps the Score author, who did a psychiatrist, ran some scientific researches on their protocol of trauma sensitive yoga.
Mhm.
And it was some research done on people who were treatment resistant, who had a diagnosis of PTSD and complex PTSD.
I
And
see.
they had certain guidelines about choice and all of that. And then it sort of stemmed down to, trauma informed, which is not quite as strict as trauma sensitive, but trauma sensitive is pretty much sort of copyrighted, and it's particularly for PTSD. But
Mhm.
so yes, there are certain things that aren't suitable, but I like to say that yoga practices, not just yoga poses, but yoga practices, including breath work and meditation, self-inquiry, are like penicillin.
Mhm.
One practice might be great medicine for you, but it could be poison for me. And that's not just because of trauma, it's things like high blood pressure, psychosis,
Sure.
bulge discs in your back, all sorts of things, osteoporosis.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so that's why yoga therapists teach it therapeutically, in that we have more scope of practice, but we work a lot one-on-one with people to tailor a therapeutic plan for them, that we avoid these poisonous practices. Not that yoga is medicine.
Right.
I mean, it's a complementary modality. It's not Prozac.
Sure.
Uh,
Sure.
I have to be careful with, I don't want to be misleading here under consumer law. It's not a quick fix.
Yeah, no, not at all, and I appreciate the clarification for sure, Liz, and, by all means, of course. Um, can you give an example of a yoga setting that could possibly trigger or re-trigger trauma response? One of the things that I thought of as you were talking about some of the old school instructors trying
Mm.
to get you to bend, to get your face or your chin to touch the ground, and I mean that could trigger a trauma response for someone who has had physical abuse
Oh,
over the years, right? Is that an example?
yeah. So, yeah, definitely. In a trauma informed class, we would avoid adjustments, or we use consent tokens to
Yes.
say, if you want to be touched, adjusted, put your token up. Otherwise, keep it down, that sort of thing. But there's so many things, and I would like to put a caveat out there that it's impossible for a yoga teacher to guarantee they're not going to trigger someone. But what
Sure.
we want to try to do is not re-traumatize them.
Right.
And practice exposure therapy on them and say, oh no, we need to get it out of them. We are not therapists, psychotherapists.
Right.
And I mean, so one of the things that came to me after the second fire was candles.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said this to other yoga teachers, and they're like, oh no, but we need to get it out of them. We need to push them and you really open them up. And I'm like, would you know how to handle it if they got re-traumatized in front of a class of people?
Oh my,
Because
you're right.
there was a student in Melbourne who had survived a bushfire. We call them bushfires here, not wildfires.
Right,
And
right.
a teacher lit up incense, and the
Mm.
smell of it, just the smell, reminded her of the eucalyptus trees burning, like the ones they've got in California.
Yeah, yeah.
Drought tolerant, but they're fire bombs. And she had a full-blown panic attack.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, we don't want to re-traumatize people, and we might trigger them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about, giving people an opt-out. And I mean, I say to yoga teachers, look, it's fine to use candles, but advertise it. Don't ask them at the last minute, has anyone got an issue if you use candles? Because they're going to feel a bit embarrassed to say, well, yeah, I'm going to leave if you do.
Yeah.
So there's many things. And I mean, child's pose is a trigger for people who've gone through an earthquake, perhaps, because it's
Sure.
reminded of getting down low to brace, like the people in New Zealand, Christchurch, with the earthquakes they've had there and other places. So
Mm-hmm.
it's, and I mean, some classes can be more trauma informed than others. It depends where the class is held. If there are emergency exits handy, and
Right.
but
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
certain things I think yoga teachers can do, and people who have acute trauma can look out for if they're going to go to a yoga class.
And that's good to know. I mean, and hopefully it's reassuring to, those attending the classes. Obviously full transparency, there's no guarantee that they will not be triggered. But your goal is to not re-trigger. And so,
Trauma.
yeah, and over the trauma, exactly. And so over time, as you have these classes and these instructions and the different people that you meet from all walks of life, I'm sure you build quite a repository of of certain things to be sensitive of. And I'm sure there's more that will come that you may not have discovered yet. But
Oh, definitely. I'm forever a
yeah,
student.
yeah, forever a student, a lifelong learner, right?
That's
Yeah, so that is that's extraordinary, and it speaks to the respect and compassion that you have for your clients, Liz. And speaking of compassion, I'd like to do a slight shift to
Yeah.
self-compassion. Okay, people who are considering yoga and they've endured years and years of trauma and just dark days. Um, some of these people, if not all, have some degree of shame or
Yes.
guilt. And I was wondering, can you tell us the importance of self compassion and what does self compassion or developing self compassion look like as one begins practicing yoga?
Yeah, shame. I would like to say anyone listening that shame is very normal. So if you're feeling that now, that is common. I've felt it many times. Occasionally I still do beat myself up. Um, so compassion to yourself is loving kindness
Mhm.
to yourself, loving yourself like you love your children, or if you have children, your pets or your other people around you, or love doing things towards
Yeah.
yourself. Or I think it can be a really hard thing to do. As Mark Twain, I think it was, as Amy Weintraub, one of my teachers, said, we are our own toughest critics. If we
We
talk
are.
talk to ourselves, talk to our children the way we talk to ourselves, we'd be arrested for child abuse.
Yeah.
So I mean, my yoga practice has helped me notice that inner dialogue, the inner critic, Amy calls it, and become friends with it, and through some self-inquiry practices and things like that.
Yeah, those things are very important. And it's important to have self awareness and to be mindful of what we're telling ourselves, right? I mean, whether we say it out loud, if we're alone in a room or in our car, or perhaps we're thinking it as we are at a certain event or in a certain setting, with people around us, and that can be just as toxic, right? Thinking these bad thoughts about ourselves in the setting, even though we're not outwardly, saying anything. And so I think, and if you could share for the listeners, these types of internal dialogue that plagues us because of the trauma we've gone through with guilt and shame, um, that can get in the way of us, discovering or rediscovering our true purpose. Is that right?
Yeah, we can stop us finding our own true nature.
Hmm.
Yes, definitely. I've done a lot of journaling over the years.
Hmm.
Before the fire, after the fire, journaling on just a brain dump of what's on my mind, what are thoughts are repetitive, which ones are serving me, which ones aren't, because
Right.
often we have vasanas, unconscious thoughts that we're just not even aware that we're having.
Right. We have those too. Yeah.
And then, so it can be nice to do a brain dump and just see what's coming out and just put a timer on and journal until that timer goes off, whether it's writing or typing or voice dictation.
Mhm.
It can be quite therapeutic. And I mean, in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, we have Pratipaksha Bhavana, cultivating the opposite.
Mm,
Cultivating the opposite thought. When
yeah.
we have negative thoughts, cultivating the absolute opposite with imagery and things like that.
Hmm.
And a trauma-informed yoga nidra can be nice for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. That's a big part of how yoga can impact the mind in a positive way. During a practice of yoga, um, what type of thoughts or breathing or just maybe a mantra or a sort of positive dialogue um, do you recommend, or do you um, help guide your clients as they're physically doing it? I would imagine there's something that they're thinking in or taking in mentally, psychologically, as they're physically doing, the settings that serve them.
oh, there's a few things I'd like to say about that topic. I think I like to get clients to keep a practice journal on seeing how they felt before the practice,
Mhm.
what, and then doing a journal after to see
Ah,
what did they notice during the practice.
reflection, nice.
Did it meet their mood?
Mhm.
Did they notice any new thought patterns they haven't noticed before?
Yeah.
And so one of the things that's come to me is the lessons we learn on the mat. For instance, there's this famous pose. It's an arm balance called crow pose.
Mhm.
Basic arm balance, gymnastic type pose, and this pose was brilliant. Not because of doing it, the life lessons it taught me. So it was a pose I discovered second year of trying yoga in a power vinyasa class, and I couldn't get into it. Everyone else seemed to be doing it easily. I
Yeah.
tried twice and went, nah, this isn't for me. There's
Mhm.
something wrong with me. I can't do it. But I didn't realize I was thinking this. I just gave up straight away.
Oh, I see.
And I didn't, I was, as initially, I was completely oblivious to this. And
Subconscious thought.
yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
because I tried to get into another fancy pose, wheel pose, this back bending one, and the teacher had said to me, "You're not strong enough. You need to try harder." And then I'd learnt from a teacher trainer on a training course that I just don't have the shoulders for it.
I
My
see.
husband was going to the gym heaps. He couldn't get into it. He has strong shoulders. He doesn't have enough range either in his back, hips, and shoulders.
Ah, okay. I
And
see.
then after learning this, I thought, but is that the same with crow pose? Is it fear that's stopping me?
Mhm.
What's stopping me from getting into it? And then I discovered it was something I often do is I give up too quickly and go, there's something wrong with me. Everyone else can do it, but there's just something wrong with me. I didn't give myself enough of an opportunity to give it a go. And so in lockdown, I did another training and I did this arm balance course and I thought I'm going to practice something called, we got a Abhyasya and Vagra, dedicated practice without an attachment to the result, and
Okay.
just see what happens as an experiment. And sure
Mhm.
enough, I got into crow pose. It just took a lot of work. And so it wasn't getting into it. It was what I got, that it was the resilience and the mind training of the pose. That was the brilliant part of it. So I like to say to my students, when you get to a difficult pose, try to notice how you react to it. Or when you get the sequence wrong and you find everyone else is in a different pose, what pattern do you say to yourself, oh, you're so stupid? Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
wish knowing what you were doing. What goes through your mind? Because often what goes through your mind on the mat is what's going to happen off the mat. So that crow pose was brilliant. It made me believe in myself and know that I haven't often given myself enough chance, enough of an opportunity. And I did my bar training. It's a Pilates ballet style class, but
mhm,
it's choreographed to, it's in time to the music, something I never thought I'd be able to teach.
mm,
But after doing that crow, I thought, you know what, I probably never tried hard enough. I'm going to give this a go and see if I can learn and get qualified to teach this class, because I
mm,
developed more belief in myself, because I never had enough belief at school, in myself, because I was told at school, you're done, you're never going to finish school. My parents were told this too. She's not going to finish school.
mm.
And I finished school and I got a university degree. But that still didn't give me enough belief in myself. So that's the sort of thing yoga can do. You can notice how you respond on the mat,
Yeah,
things
yeah,
like, and you can try to practice mindfully by changing your breath, having a mantra in your head of something simple like, so hum, I am that. Because often the mind needs a bone, like a dog needs a bone. Like my spoodle is lying
yes,
here down on the floor. When she was a puppy, she needed something to occupy herself so she didn't destroy things. So our
yes,
minds are so busy. This is normal. But
yeah,
often we need something else to anchor them, a bone.
yeah, yeah. Some degree of mental stimulation, something to kind of anchor and center your thoughts. And like you, my dog is laying here right on the floor, right underneath where I'm sitting.
Oh,
Yeah, and we love our pups for sure, and she needs a bone, and this is like a bone to us. That setting was so revealing to you in how you shared it. Thank you for sharing that with us, and thank you for the distinction, right? That it wasn't just the pose or the movement or the setting, but it's what was revealed to you about yourself in your journey through it, right? These subconscious thoughts were coming into your head, and the conscious thoughts were coming through your head as well. And you picked up the mindfulness and the self awareness to realize that, and then you dug deeper into the resilience of giving it a go, right? Absolutely fascinating, Liz. I mean, of the journey that that any part of yoga can take anyone through, in the mind over matter type of navigation.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, it's that's the important part, what you can take off the mat. That's the nuggets of the
Yes.
the
Yes.
golden nuggets. Yeah.
Yes, and capturing them, right? Capturing them after the practice as you advise your clients to journal and write. How do I feel afterwards? Right? What was I thinking? Um, what am I thinking now of myself or my abilities after the practice? And then continue to build on that from day to day, from practice to practice. Um, you have really shared some insightful things about yoga that I never knew about, and the targeted yoga and the approach to yoga for traumatized people. Is to me, it just it just rings themes of compassion, themes of respect, themes of transparency, things of sensitivity, and just being respectful to those people who have gone through that, whatever their traumas may be, in helping them with yoga as a way, as a supplement, as a method, you know, towards their recovering and healing. Um, Liz, I really, really appreciate the clarifications. I appreciate the insights and the distinctions that you made in yoga and what you've gotten out of yoga and in what you teach in yoga. The distinction between the old school and the new methods. All this is very, very insightful. So Liz, how can the listeners follow you, connect with you, and learn more about what you teach in yoga?
Oh, sure. The best way is either my website, Liz Albanis, Albanis,
Mhm.
wellness.com.au, because I'm in Australia,
Mhm.
or on Instagram, I'm Liz Albanis Wellness AU, and on YouTube as well. They're the main places you'll find me. And
Wonderful.
my homepage will have what's going on. And on my podcast, Yoga for Trauma, the inner fire of yoga is another place. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Liz, what we're going to do then is we're going to have links to the website, the social media handles, and your podcast, all in the episode show notes, along with little nuggets of insight that you've shared in the show notes so the listeners can read that, click the links, connect with you, learn more about your work while listening to this great conversation. Liz, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate what you do. I appreciate the approach in which you take for those all over the world who have been traumatized and looking for ways to manage it. You are a force for good in the universe. Thank you, Liz, once again for coming on. I hope we can stay in touch and bring you on the show again in the future.
Oh, I'd love to stay in touch and feel free. I think this obviously goes on YouTube, so you can always tag me or add me as a collaborator, and I'll be putting it on a playlist as well.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm going to take you up on that.
Fine, no, that's fine, Aubrey. Thank you for doing what you do with your
Oh,
podcast and things like that to help others. We're all on a journey. None
we
of
are.
us are perfect. We all have our days. We all have our dark moments, I think.
We all have our days and dark moments, indeed, Liz. And, if all of us can collaborate and work together and just do um, our, our part, just a little small increment, exponentially, it will grow in such a positive way that change for the good in the world can happen. I am a true believer of that. I've said that for a long time, and it's people like you that are doing things like this, Liz, that's a true testament to that thought. So my thought on that has not wavered. Thanks to you and other extraordinary people like you.
Oh, thank you. Let's
Yeah.
hope more people meditated and practiced yoga and qigong, wouldn't the world be a better place?
It would be a so much better place for sure. It surely will. Thanks again, Liz. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in and listening. And look, you may feel like this a bit at times, but in our daily struggles and adversities, you're never alone. And hope is always around the corner. I humbly ask that you please share this show with someone you know, someone you love who needs motivation, inspiration, and support. And you know, when it all comes down to it, we're all just roadies on this journey of life, but it sure feels good having you on the road with me. Thanks again for listening, and we'll chat again soon. We really hope you enjoyed this episode of The Road to Rediscovery. We'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email at roadtorediscoverypodcast@gmail.com and leave us any questions or comments you may have. The Road to Rediscovery is an AJ Shark production.